such a big subject. I've gotten really fond of a fairly particular style that's now getting famous around the world from a tribe known as the Malinke, Mande, the Mandingo, out of West Africa. Guinea is the country that primarily my teachers come out of. I love their style especially, but Nigeria and Ghana and Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso and other countries, Senegal and that areas have strong drumming traditions, and I suppose maybe all over Africa. But that's the area I know the most about. This drum comes from Guinea. They brought the level of workmanship in these drums to a really high level. It's fantastic. It's interesting to think about how these drums were created. You know, you figure at first there's a tree that's followed and there's a hollow log. You know, you figure that out. You whack on things and you make sounds. And somehow or another, they came up with this idea of stretching a skin tight over a hollow bowl-shaped space. I had a teacher tell me recently, and it's a story I hadn't heard, but I like it. And he said the women, you know, when they would make food, they managed to make stone in bowls, and they would get rhythmic about how they would crush the grain in the bowl. And he says, well, one night, somewhere in antiquity, they hadn't finished. They left the bowl in there, and somebody said, "Well, they knew all about using animal skins for forever, right? So they took an animal skin, laid it over there to kind of cover it for the night while they go away. Well, it rains, so the skin droops down over the thing, and then the sun comes up in the morning, and it dries out, and they come over and look, we got this shape, and there's this accidental. You know how we discover a lot of things is sort of accidental. So it's a wonderful, interesting way to think about how did they figure out how to do a bowl shape and make a drum. And then particularly then to get this sort of tube on the bottom and figure out the dynamics to get this hole and this hole and this hole all right. And there's a lot of intricate detail about these drums that make them so that they make a big bass when you hit it with your palm, and they make a medium pitch when you do hold your hand just so that you hit kind of evenly with all the fingers. And then when you get a flicky, so you can learn to make tone slap, tone slap. And when you have 3 notes, you can make lots more music than you can with 2 notes, right? So it's good to get creative and figure out different notes. Now these are not all African djembes. Some of these are Remo tubanos. Most of those are. And they do have a little bit of a bass sound. So you think about it, if you take your hand and you stiffen it just slightly, and you don't really need any wrist, it just comes from here, and you don't have to hit it very hard. And it's kind of, so your middle knuckle is near the middle of the drum. Just figure out how to make that big humming kind of a bass. Right? So you don't really gain much from the bass by hitting it hard. It hurts you if you hit it too hard, right? So 1, 2, ready, and stop. Okay? So that's the bass. It's just that simple. You don't have to hit it hard. To tone and slap, it takes most people a long time to really get your tone and slap together, because there's slight little differences in how you hold your hand, right? To get the tone, basically, well, first of all, do this. Make a triangle with your hands and lay your hands down on the drum, and then just spread your fingers apart like about 1 inch or so. And if you have a drum like mine, you have to tilt it, because like this, you get no bass. This you have to get your air must pass to make that standing wave. All the tubanos, the round ones, the legs, you don't have to be concerned about that. But those, and some of the djembes are in stands like that. The West African djembe fellows, when they perform, they play with straps and stand with the drums, but it's perfectly fine to play seated. So we've got the triangle again, and we lay our hands down on the drum so that your knuckles, basically, there's 2 styles, the short hand and the long hand. You can do it so your knuckles are up in the drum and you're crossing the edge of the drum right through there, or you can do the short hand, which is here. And I've seen djembe fellas, djembe masters, do both very effectively. I typically tend to recommend people begin with this, because you tend to hurt yourself less. When you do the shorthand method, you're a little more in danger of hitting the wood with your knuckles. So one of the most important statements I give to my drum students is, hit the skin, not the wood. When you hit the wood, and whack it, you can, crushing bones can sound cool, but it doesn't last very long, right? So you got to learn to hit the skin, not the wood. So that's why you want if the drum were up here, it's harder. When it's down here and my arms are straight, it's ergonomically. I can hit really hard like that, and I can, my fingers know how much they can take, but I'm not hitting the wood at all. If you whack the wood, very quickly you're going to get feedback from your hands how it hurts, right? Okay, so that's just a little safety issue. Think about your hands like this. Put your hands back up there with your triangle. And the other thing is you have to teach yourself to not beat up your thumbs. particularly if you do the longhand method where you're in this far, the thumbs in their natural position, they kind of whack on there, and after a while they'll get really sore. And I've had knots from played for several years before I got a teacher that said, hey, get your thumbs out of the way. So hold your thumbs back out of the way, and like so. So let's practice the tone a little bit. With the tone, you do, of course, use your wrist. Like the bass, you don't need your wrist here. So just try to do that motion. Now, today we won't worry much about it, but ultimately if you want to get really musical with this kind of a drum, you've got to learn to get tone and slap, and it's tricky to do. But so the basic lesson is that on tones, if your fingers together, so I think of it kind of like a paintbrush. You want all of that skin there to hit pretty evenly, and you go slight in the slap. The difference is your hand goes a little bit relaxed, and you have a little bit more curve, and you think fingertips. There's a little more air. If you made if you were able to look electronically with a computer at how deep into the skin did I hit and what part of my fingers hit, you'd see something very distinct. What you would see is for the tone, all of that hits even, really steady, and for the slap, it's more like it's lighter in here under the knuckles, and it's stronger on the fingertips, and particularly on the outer fingertips. So it takes a lot of practice to figure that out, but if you're going to do a lot of drumming, you start thinking early about how do I make different sounds, right? But the main things right now is don't hurt yourself, don't whack it too hard, hit the skin, not the wood, okay? So maybe just for a moment, put your hands like this, your fingers together, they're pretty straight, there's your tone. And then for your slap, what I want you to do is let your fingers come apart just in a natural, easy way, and let your hands curve a little bit. So you want to straighten together as tone and curve like a slap. So just try. Slaps and it seems kind of painful. I'm not a conga master, but that can work. You want to find any way you can to make different sounds so you can speak on the drum, right? If you have jewelry, a lot of people recommend taking the jewelry off. If you hit the drum lightly, you're not likely to hurt the drummer yourself. One drum circuit facilitator I know tells the story of a woman who had the 5-carat diamond that, it's gone, oh gosh, oh God. And the young, 12-year-old boy whose hand is bloody from his ring, So jewelry, you might consider taking it off if that feels comfortable to you. Okay, so we got our bass, tone, slap, right? So how about let's do this. First of all, let's just do like a really simple, I think, what's like the first groove you could play? And I would just so if you take your strong hand and put it in the bass position in the middle of the drum, and you take your other hand and you put it so that the thumb is back and your fingers are on like that. And we're just going to do a little 1-2 and just kind of groove with that for a second, see how it feels. So just join me as you like.